man.
What's going on, Shane? Thank you for having me, brother. It's a pleasure to
Ab-
be here.
Absolutely, man. It's a long time coming, man. I heard you on my buddy Tom's show, Strange Brew. For anybody that may not listen to that show, always highly recommend listening to it. Really enjoyed your guys' conversation, so I figured, we got like minds, so maybe we should have a conversation. So here we are, man.
Absolutely, dude. No, thank you for inviting me. I love going on other people's shows. It's rare when I do it. I usually have, I have a few shows I do, so I usually end up having people on. But yeah, man, shout out Tomcat, him and Billy, and all the boys at Strange Brew. They're some good guys, and he's been a good friend. Over the past couple years since I've started Greypilled. And we've done a few shows together. We've done a few deep dives together. Uh, and we have something at the end of this month as well. So, yeah, shouts out Strange Brew Podcast. Love
Yeah, I
those
would say
guys.
always a big shout out to Tommy. He was actually one of my first friends as far as podcasting goes when I first started off my show. So it seems
Well,
like it's a kind of a regular thing with Tom that you have these like really good connections with him and stuff, but you never get
yeah,
it around to as many shows as you'd like to get to. Because as much as we talk, as much as we go back and forth, we're always like, hey, let's do this show, let's do this. I think we've accomplished maybe like 4 shows in the past like 3 years somehow. So
yeah. There's a lot more that I like to do with him. And now him having a child, he is a very busy man. Um, but yeah, dude, I was listening to Strange Brew for like a year and a half, 2 years maybe before I started the podcast. So, it's surreal talking and having these conversations with people who you were once listening to. And, you know, it's crazy.
say
But
kind of
here
weird
we
once
are.
everybody just becomes part of the community. Because when you're a listener, man, you're listening to these people like they're like, I don't want to say somebody famous, but like they're somebody that's something, you know what I mean? And then once you kind of
Absolutely.
get into the community, you realize that, we're all just normal average people. It's not like anybody's like above anybody else. Like it's weird,
Yeah.
when you flip that switch over and you realize that like all the podcasts that you listen to, no matter how big the show is, everybody's just normal people just running a podcast, man.
Oh,
Half the
yeah,
time they
dude.
still run a full-time job, like they got kids, they
Oh,
got all
dude,
this
I'm
other
just a
stuff going
regular
on.
guy. My audience knows, like, my kids will bust in here. My wife's been on stream with me before. Like, they all know, like, I'm in my garage, and like I'm very transparent and personable with the Gray Pilled audience. And there's some very loyal people as well. Um, but yeah, man, no, it really is something when you get to start having, start putting out it. I've put out episodes with people that I, never thought I'd be able to talk to, um, much less on my own podcast, like my own platform, my own thing that I'm doing, which was inevitable because I would come home every day with like a new list of rabbit holes and this and that to exhaust my wife with. Um, and that got tight. So she was like, "Hey, babe, you should really start something. Here, let me help you set it up, and I'll make, yeah, there you go." And I was like, "Yeah, thanks." And so she really pushed me to do that. Uh, and yeah, man. And then so 2 years later, now here I am, and I have a few shows, to be honest with you, that I do, or that I've done. And you learn a lot. You learn a lot talking to people, and I think that's one of the most important things about podcasting or streaming, whatever you want to call it, are the conversations and um, the relationships you make along the way with the other people podcasting and the audience. I think that's a big part of it. If you don't have a good audience, I don't know what to tell you. I just I think that's a big part of my show. So
Oh yeah, 100%, man. I was gonna say one of the main things that's always kept me going is just the ability to have some of these conversations with people. That's always one of the best things is you can read a book, but when you can actually talk to the person that's doing the research, any of that, you can actually start connecting clues. And then when you actually start talking to them about your research, you can start throwing ideas back at them. And that's what's honestly kept me going through the years, man. It's just having the ability to have the conversations with the people that I do, because a lot of the time you just don't get these conversations in normal life. Like no matter how much you
yeah,
try, maybe you'll get lucky with one buddy here or there. But once you start a podcast, just the ability to have this high end of conversations with people, like to whatever crazy thing you want to talk about, dude. That's like, that would be the hardest thing to give up, would just not being able to have the ability to talk about all the weird things that I want to be able to talk about, and actually have somebody that wants
Absolutely.
to hear it, have somebody that wants to listen, and actually have somebody that bounces back and forth and contributes ideas with me.
Well, yeah, dude, it's like an adrenaline rush when you get into that kind of conversation. You meet somebody who's into the weird, uh, you know, fringe stuff that you're into, and you're like, wait a minute, I can talk to you for hours. You know what I mean? It's good, man, and it's something that we're losing as in society. I think are conversations, right? And I know these are online and they're not IRL. I think those would be uh, good as well. But this is one step closer to it. So
Next best step you're going to get, considering
yeah,
that a lot of the people that you talk about this stuff with are spread out all over the country, all over the world. Like, just in podcasting, man, it's like I haven't even come across that many people that are even reasonably close to me. So it's like, if it wasn't for the internet, and there would be no other way of doing it, unfortunately, because you just wouldn't be able to travel like that. Nobody has the money to be able to do that. So as nice as it would be to be able to have the conversations in real life, like, at least we have the ability to be able to do stuff like this. Like, the internet's a blessing and a curse at the same time. I've been saying that forever.
well, hey man, maybe one day we'll have something going where we can all meet up and have these conversations on a big stage and have a big audience out there watching. You never know. So
It's got to keep chugging along, man. But
yeah, man.
uh, I guess since we just were kind of sidelining a little bit about your podcast, but we didn't really talk too much about it. For any of my listeners that may not be familiar with what Greypilled is exactly, what you talk about over there, the premise of your show, why don't you let them know a little bit about your show and a little bit about what you do over there, man?
Absolutely. Okay, so I am host of the Greypilled podcast. Greypilled was something I started a couple years ago. It's kind of how I felt at the time. I didn't really feel black-pilled, not too positive either. You're
Never
coming
want
out
to
of
be fully black
COVID.
pilled. That's always been the rule. You never go fully black pilled.
Yeah, yeah, you never want to. And so yeah, you stare into the abyss long enough, it stares back, or you can fall in. And if you too white pilled, I just don't think it's always good to stay positive, but you don't want to be overly you know optimistic. I don't think. I think you need to have some kind of discernment in there to know when something could take a wrong turn, right? um, Especially on a world scale or like a mass extinction level, with all the end times prophecies and everything going on. But it's just kind of how I felt at the time. Is like, we're living in all this chaos, but I still have a little hope. And so, you black and white, gray, obviously, everyone's red pill, blue pill, white pill, black pill, take the gray pill. That's what I was saying. And So I started off just doing interviews, doing little deep dives and swap casts with other people. And yeah, we just talk about conspiracies, cryptids, cults, esoteric thought, certain mystery schools, the occult, certain groups in the occult, and their leaders, and Illuminati bloodlines. I mean, the list goes on. And so I was doing Gray Pilled. I started doing a show. My first guest I had on was a guy named Adrian West. Um, he is an author. He is a film producer. He's a boxer and a trainer as well. He's about to be a new father. Shouts out my boy. But he wrote a book called Pantheon One: The Golden Veins, where he gets into these entities that are found throughout every culture. These sky gods that in these ancient times that all of these cultures had contact with, but yet none of these cultures had contact with each other. But the stories are all similar. And this leads back to the Anunnaki and all this stuff. So he kind of he comes from that angle with these books that he's writing with his co-author Benson C. Saili, this guy from Botswana who has interviewed numerous tribes throughout Africa and Europe and South America, I think, and just these same stories of these same people. And so me doing research on pantheons and like the Book of Enoch, uh, these ancient Sumerian stories and mythologies. We started a show called Elohim Etymology, where we kind of trace these deities over the cultures, who they were worshipped as, their symbolism, kind of who they are in pop culture, the occult themes behind it, like everything, dude. And we had to put it on hiatus, 13 episodes in, because, like I said, he's having a kid. So, and I may do a couple episodes before he comes back, if he decides to come back. God, I hope he does. He's a busy man, but I may have somebody else fill in for him. So those actually dropped to the Patreon for a couple weeks before they dropped to the public. But that's one show I started. Then me and the Paranoid American, shouts out Thomas, we started a show. He had me on for a show he had called Sound Science, where you go on and you talk about like your 5 favorite albums of a certain genre. In my case, we picked stoner metal. And it's great because I'm a big fan of Sleep, big fan of like old Black Sabbath, Electric Wizard, Orange Goblin. Love stoner rock.
Would you consider Mastodon to be that? Because I kind of consider Mastodon to be
absolutely,
that
man.
field.
Mastodon's great. They played up in Oxford not too long ago. Well, hell, it's probably years ago, but I missed it. I should have went, but I missed it. I really regret that.
Dude, now that was it the lead singer / guitar player passed away a couple months ago? Now it's like you'll never be able to see Mastodon to their full capacity again. It was a motorcycle accident, if I'm not mistaken.
Damn. Yeah, apparently they're one of the loudest bands you can see live.
Oh, dude, they're one of the loudest bands you can listen to on headphones.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. And so I came on, and then I just stayed. I stayed for the rest of the episodes, and so we have that show we do together every now and then, Sound Science. And then I had a new show I did with Nate from Reality Czars and a guy named Cody from Oddfellows called Schizo News Network. Tom came on a couple times. It was a good show. I did it for a little less than a year, I think, before I got a little busy with Greypilled. So I had to quit doing it. I started producing for a show called Already Dead that I produced for a year with Austin Picard of the Underclass Podcast and Jose Galison from Tower Gang and No Way Jose. It's a parapolitical live call-in show every Tuesday, and I loved doing it for the time that I did. Learned a lot about the parapolitical world and cults and the tie-in to like Project Gladio and all that stuff, dude. Like, it's crazy. And that shit, that's real. You know what I mean? Like the parapolitical world, it's there in evidence and paper and video. Like, that's not just theorized or, esoteric symbolism or some kind of theology. That's actual. And so, we
usually hit that pretty heavy on this show too. I have Charlie come on every couple months, and he gives everybody like a geopolitical update. So yeah, my listeners are fully aware of that stuff. We hit that stuff pretty hard, man. You got to be aware of the spiritual, and you got to be aware of the physical, man.
Absolutely. So that was a good thing. And then they had someone, my homeboy Jacob from Rise to Liberty, who was doing edits for them and a lot of other stuff, logos. And so he took on the production, and I had to focus on Greypilled more, man. So this goes back to me losing focus of my own show because I picked up too many other projects, right? and so at the same time at Greypilled, I'm doing a show called Cryptid Watch every Sunday. Did 15 of those. It was like a cryptid show, and I still do them. I've done a few since then. Beg for donations and whatnot. Just watch cryptid videos with the audience. We have a game we play called Cryptid or Crackhead. And then there was another show I started with my buddy Conspiracy Extremist called Sunday Chaos. And we would have other talking heads from our little corner of the internet on, and like our schizo conspiracy, degenerate comedy, corner of the internet. And it was a good show. We did about 15 of them, and people got busy doing other stuff, and we just, and so now I have Greypilled. Obviously, I'm still doing Sound Science, and I am on the panel of a show called The Occult Rejects.
Oh, The Occult Rejects, dude. Fucking New York Patriot. I've been trying to connect back with him forever, dude. And every time I try to hit him up, man, we always are like, oh, let's set up a show, and then it never happens, dude. We used to be so close, man.
The panel. Yeah, Nick is on Esoteric Book Review every Saturday, dude.
That's so weird to
Let's
me now
definitely
that
set
he's
that up.
open about his name, because back when we were like regularly talking, like I was one of like 5 people that actually knew his name. Like it's so weird
He
that
got
Nick's just
over it.
like, I'm Nick
Yeah.
now.
Well, he's ex OTO,
Yeah, he had his fallout with what was his name? Crap. The other guy from the Occult Rejects when they first started off.
I forgot the guy's name. You're the second person who's brought that up to me in the past week. And I was like, Nick hasn't talked to me about that.
Yeah, they had a big
Nick's not
fallout
one for
because they
drama.
originally
I don't
started
think.
the show and they had the big fallout with, the whole thing with the podcast community. And then he
Oh
realized at
man.
the end of it that the other dude was lying and he was never part of like the Freemasons, nothing like that. He was claiming he was from what's the name of that one? Crap. It's Golden something.
The Golden Dawn.
Yep, that's it. Yep, he was claiming he was from the Golden Dawn, and yeah, he ended up
I'll
not
have to
being from
ask Nick
anything.
about that. Yeah, man. That's something that was before I had heard of them or was in the the community. So, but I mean, since I've been on, there's been a few people that have left. One of them who I'm friends with, stuff happens, and I have a lot of friends in podcasting that don't get along with each other. One's maybe Christian and one's pagan, or one's this or that, and it's just it sucks because I want to have these conversations with all of us together, but it is what it is, and men are men, and they will have their differences, and there's nothing you can do about it. At the end of the day, so. I have a good relationship with everyone. I love everyone that I've done anything with. I have formed a friendship or relationship. That's what I was telling you. I was like, yeah, man. Yeah, I'm sure. And we ended up having like a 30-minute conversation before the show. And, I just, want everybody to get along. But, I am that beacon of peace, hopefully. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see in the future. But, it's important to have conversations like what we were talking about with people whose opinions differ from you as well. You know what I
Otherwise, you
mean?
get
Because you
just
can
get stuck in
probably
your own
find
echo chamber.
something. Yeah. Well, I was going to say you could probably find something that you agree on, right? Or something that connects both of your thought, both of your, both of your school of thought or whatever you align with. I mean, I don't know. I don't find it productive not to. The main part of Greypilled is to really question everything, dude. Like absolutely everything. I've made myself uncomfortable multiple times, and I've always come out good on the other side of it.
Yeah, you got to
I
give yourself the ability to question things. That's kind of what I try to do in Inquiries of Our Reality. Part of like the message of the show is I want to try to give the audience as much different perspectives as possible so they can find the common ground in the middle. So
you inquire,
my
bro.
audience knows my beliefs. They know
Inquiries.
my understanding of things, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to have somebody on that has completely conflicting views just because I want to be able to bring everything into the fold. Because like you were kind of mentioning
Exactly.
with Greypilled, the reason I like your name so much is because I feel like the best place is in the center. Everybody makes you think you have
Thank
to
you,
be
Shayn.
radicalized this way or the other way, but if you would
Yeah.
actually just take the time to sit and understand everybody's perspective, you would understand the connecting pieces and realize that there is this center that really everything makes sense. Like I always used to hear this joke, and I don't know like the full long version of it, but essentially it was, they have these multiple different spiritual teachers, all who have learned different things. Say like one's a Christian, one's a Jew, one does like yoga, one does this, one does that. One day they're actually in front of the omnipotent, God, and he basically says, if all of you would have just put your knowledge together, you would have all figured it out. But instead, you guys divided yourselves. And that's kind of the idea that I have with things is everybody wants to back themselves into the corner so much that they don't want to hear other people's philosophies. And then in turn, it blocks you off from understanding the bigger philosophy because you're too pushed into the corner of your own philosophy. Like I've been talking about it regularly on the show that, I've, become like a Christian and stuff, but just because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
Christian doesn't mean that I'm not going to have a conversation with anybody about anything else. It doesn't mean I'm not going to have heathens on the show. It doesn't mean I'm not going to
Right.
have, Wiccans on the show. I want to find the common ground in the middle. I want to, understand other people's perspectives, try to understand why they
Absolutely,
feel the
man.
way that they feel. And just because I have my views doesn't mean that it's going to get in the way of my guests, for example, trying to explain their perspective of things.
Yeah, that's what I've tried to do, especially since I've joined the Occult Rejects, and I've had a lot of conversations with those guys. I've learned a lot. and my understanding of things has broadened greatly. Let's just say that. I have one more show, Shayn. I have one more show. Look, so with the Patreon guys, there's a show we do every Saturday morning. It's called Esoteric Book Review. It's me, my buddy Subliminal Messenger, and my buddy Rat, Season of the Rat. These are guys that I met in a community called the Dangerous Retard Community. In the
Great name.
Yeah, well, it's in the Nephilim Death Squad. We met in that kind of community. And they started podcasting shortly after me. And, we have like this little group of podcasters that all, we all have pretty much the same audience, maybe some different audience members, but, it's cool to have a little community like that you built up, over talking about the same things, having the same beliefs, So we do that every Saturday morning. And we have Nick from Occult Rejects join us, and Headless Giant from Occult Rejects joined us this last Saturday. Me and him have a show as well. Sorry, Shayn. It's called Rustic Gods. We've done 5 episodes. It's on the Grecian Rustic Gods, and it's an Occult Rejects series that we started. So those are my shows. That's it. I don't know why I'm burping so much, Shayn. I know I'm a little quirky at times. It's this mineral water, man. It's this mineral water. It's Topo Chico. Pretty good stuff.
Oh, like Alex Jones drinks. Good old Topo Chico.
Alex Jones drinks Topo Chico?
Dude, there's a million clips of Alex Jones screaming about Topo Chico.
Oh, dude. I mean, it's great stuff. If you quit drinking beer, which I did, because if you go watch my shows from the first year of Greypilled, you'll see me doing streams just like, oh, look at this faggot, just talking, just drinking Coors banquets back to back, baby. And I had to cut that out, dude. It was different at first. It was weird streaming without drinking. It was weird, and I was like, am I able to do this? And then obviously, yeah.
You realize you're better without it. I used to do the same thing. Like I used to
Yes.
smoke when I first started my show, and now I have this rule where I won't be stoned. Like I like being 100% sober before the shows. I'll wait to smoke afterwards, but it's just for the sake of the conversation. Once you get past that initial putting yourself out there aspect, it's you want to become better. So by becoming better, you just don't want to be kind of pushed into a corner with something,
Absolutely, man.
That's just how I am, at least. That's how I've always been. I'm always going to be a smoker and stuff, but I wait till
Me too. Hey, it's one thing that's never led me to try and fight somebody.
Yeah, or anything else. Even though
I did many times. Dude, I got kicked out of so many bars on alcohol, dude. Just not good. Turn into a raging idiot. So.
Well, I guess for the sake of trying to flip over the conversation and kind of spark up something that I really wanted to start talking to you about a little bit, when we were talking before the show, you had mentioned the term that you call yourself a Christian mystic. And now I don't think that I've actually, of course, I've kind of side danced around it, kind of talking about it on the show, but I haven't actually had anybody on the show that categorizes themselves as that. So for the sake of it, I would like to kind of get into what that is exactly, what that means to you, and how exactly you kind of came about that title. And then we can kind of discuss it a little bit more from there, man.
Yeah, man. Well, let's just go ahead and state, I was an atheist for most of my life. I was on drugs in my late teens or, early 20s. And it led me down a very dark road. I was a rapper for a little bit, but on some very dark underground stuff, super dark. And just wasn't in a good place in life, and had a near experience with death, or you could say it's very cliche, but found the light at the end of the tunnel, right? When you live in darkness for so long, and you experience something, there's something that makes you want to follow that, right? So I was in a car wreck, and I should have been thrown out the car and flung a large distance. But something saved me. I had a supernatural experience. My wife kind of witnessed it as well as being pulled out in less than 30 seconds before my car, my mom's Subaru, exploded in flames. And so I had already been into like conspiracies and learning about certain things. And I never really got into reading the Bible too much or anything until I started to get into, I started to read, well, mainly P. Hall for one, but I started to get into Sitchin's books on the Anunnaki, and I was reading the Book of Enoch and the Apocryphon before I started really getting into the biblical text.
You and me both,
But
weirdly enough, actually.
well, once I've started reading the Old Testament, I realized, wait a minute, I've read these stories before, you know, in the Sumerian mythology and in these other stories. It's very similar, right? Um, it's like these same situations, these same characters, these same entities, just different names, you know? And then, so going further than just reading these stories, I started reading into esoteric symbolism. And if people don't know what esoteric is, you have the exoteric, which is what you see on the outside, what you see at first glance with your eyes. And then the esoteric is what you see that is on the inside of something, and that, you see with your mind's eye, or you discern with knowledge or, gnosis that you've acquired. And yeah, man, I started recognizing in the biblical text, not only that, but in all these other texts, these underlying themes. And this a very mystical aspect to all of this. Especially, I think me and you were talking before the show about this in the Bible, that is kept from people, right? It's kind of kept from people, so it's like they don't have the full experience, you know.
It's like only hitting like the high notes and then not giving you any of like the depth on how you got to those high notes.
Exactly. And it's like, so how are you going to maintain this relationship, right? How are you going to express this to your children? How are you going to, like, people think, you read something, or you I don't know, you pray to someone, and then you go about just living your life. Like, it's an everyday struggle to try and stay in constant alignment with God, with the Creator, with the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. And it is a spiritual thing. People like to rely too much on the dogma and the doctrine. Now, not only is this doctrine, misinterpreted and, over many times, translated wrongly here and there. But did these people who first wrote this doctrine down, did they even understand what they were writing down? And this goes back into antiquity. All these people were initiates in secret orders. All these people who wrote these books. I mean, not only, when you look at King James in the Bible, him being a Freemason, and I've talked about this lately, but Martin Luther, the Lutheran cross being the insignia of the Rose Croix, the Rose Cross of the Rosicrucians. It's like, these people had a knowing of something more that they're not conveying to anybody. And
That's
they're
always
kind
my
of
weird thing with
using.
the King James is after finding out that it's written by Francis Bacon, and I don't know, man, like
And who
I've
was
never
Francis
really
Bacon? Is
been a
Francis
big
Bacon one
fan.
person?
That's even another harder question. Is
You
he
know?
Shakespeare? Is he multiple? Like, there's so much
Right,
weirdness
dude.
behind
Is
that
it
once you
is
start
it
diving into
different
it,
people
man.
that make up the egregore or the entity? And so understanding all this stuff, dude, and realizing. And then I had Micah Dank on to explain astrotheology, and holy shit, I was blown away at all the biblical stories that correlated to the stars, dude. And obviously, this could all be true at once. What happens on heaven plays out on earth. As above, so below. Which there goes that burp again. Oh, excuse me. People with the, is an occult saying. Not so much. We're told that, and so in telling in us being told that, we fear it, and in fearing it, we don't understand it. So I think these themes, these underlying esoteric themes in all of these texts mean something. When I don't believe in coincidences. Does that make
neither
sense?
do
Like,
I. Too much stuff
I
lines
just,
up, and it just
yeah, bro.
yeah, I'm not a fan of coincidences.
Yeah, no, not at all. And so when you develop this understanding of this deeper spiritual aspect, you try to apply it to your life. And, it's something that I really don't like. I haven't really expanded on too much, but we talk about it a lot. Understanding that we have this eternal spark in us, this soul that was created, that it burns eternally. It doesn't go out. And this is actually talked about in many mystery schools, but
even in science, I mean, energy can't be created nor destroyed. It seems like it's another way of saying the same thing.
Yeah, well, everything is connected in these ethereal realms. All these different planes of existence, and we're not taught how to live in accordance with these things. So I don't know, and especially when you get to looking into the elementals, and how the elementals are really, I mean, they're spirits, but they were created by God. Now you can have elementals that can be hijacked by lesser deities. You do have that, but people think of these things, and they think angel or demon, and I think it's a lot more complicated than that.
I mean, even within both of those, there's like sets of hierarchies. There's a bunch of different variations of angels. There's different types of demons and things. Like, strictly putting them under one name or the other is almost like categorizing things like fish, bird. Like, it's just like a broad term for a bunch of different things that fit under that definition.
Yeah. Well, but back to the flame, dude. The flame is the symbol for, I mean, not only for the eternal soul, but for the creator as well. It was one of the first symbols that represented the eternal force of the creator. And so there's a lot of symbolism out there. And then when you flip the flame upside down, you get the modern day heart. There's a lot of symbols out there that are like that people don't understand, or people don't really even recognize. And now that may not mean anything to anybody. It's just a heart, but there are symbols similar that are used that are more so a, what would you call, I guess, a sigil, right? Something that's put out there in the physical world that invokes something in the spiritual world. And people put these sigils, they wear them on their clothes, they have them on the front of their cars, and a lot of these sigils you will see in the Lesser Keys of Solomon. Have you seen the emoji thing?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that shit's everywhere, bro. It's not just emojis.
And you get into emojis, and that's a whole other can of worms, because I mean, the internet as a whole, like, I think I've talked about this endlessly on the show. Is it possibly building up a new Tower of Babel? Like, is there possibly some invoking coming on from some other place that we're making this other plane that they're able to connect through coming in? Like, there's so much when it goes into that it gets creepier and deeper and darker the farther you get into the whole internet idea and the tech concept, as far as like the occult goes.
Yeah, but in being a mystic, a Christian mystic, right? It's holding on to that spirit of Christ that I have encountered in my life, and that I know it exists regardless of what any doctrine wants to tell me, right? Like I've said many times, who is anyone to tell me what my relationship and my walk in faith should be, you know? Um, and so when you understand that some of these things in these mystery schools, the symbolism, how you align your thoughts, even meditation and prayer being very similar to the same thing. You apply some of these things to your life, and the other stuff kind of starts to make more sense.
Oh yeah,
Um,
100%.
when you understand a lot of it, the stuff that Christ speaks in the Bible has multiple meanings to it. When he says, be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove, Christ was symbolized as the dove. That is, the nous and Gnosticism, or whatever you want to call it, the Holy Spirit, Sir Galahad in the Arthurian mysteries. And, serpents in the Druidic mystery schools, that's what the initiates were called. They were called serpents. And then, and at one time later on, were called phoenixes. They had many different names for different initiates and what level of initiation they were on, what rights they had, or whatever. And so that, basically saying to just be like me, because I think there are many things in the Christian mysteries that relate directly to the Druidic mysteries. It's a deep dive that I'm currently embarking on. But one thing being, the Druids would stay in the tomb for 3 days before emerging reborn. And I mean, come on, I mean, can you see it any clearer?
Yeah.
If these mysteries existed before the Bible was written, what came first? Logically, I don't know. Was Christ in the lost years? Was he around traveling, visiting these different parts of the world and these different mystery schools, and talking to these, these priests in these mystery schools, and learning or teaching? Was he teaching? I don't know.
There's
But
a lot of people that
I like
theorize
talking
about
about
that
it,
30 years, man. And there's a lot of people that theorize that may have been like part of the whole connecting of all nations, is trying to learn a little bit about everybody's philosophy to try to find that middle ground, man.
I think you're right, Shane. Yeah, I think there's something there. And a lot of Christians don't want to have that conversation. And I think that's a problem. I do.
Yeah.
I think it's a problem.
Because, I mean, you have this story about essentially him being born, and then right after that, it goes into the part where, they're basically trying to kill all the babies in the area that seem like they might be around that age, because they know that, the Messiah came, and then he disappears. There's like a 30-year gap, and then he comes back. It's like, anybody that doesn't question what happened in that 30 years.
He comes back, and he's dressed in the robes of an initiate on a donkey, which is esoteric in itself. That's episodes in itself. Teaching these people the ways of, the modern day mystic. People say, well, he was the son of God. Yeah, but he was living here on this physical plane. He wasn't a demigod. You know what I mean? He wasn't like, it's not like he fell from the sky and landed there with it's not like that kind of story. He was incarnated in a physical body. And so the rules of the physical earth still applied to his flesh. Maybe not his spirit. He had that divine connection. But as far as turning water into wine, regardless of what you want to say, that is alchemy. Maybe early alchemy, but I don't know. I just think, people don't want to refer to it as that. I don't know. I think that's a little silly, but you call it what it is,
And I mean, I know some of these people are going to say that some of this stuff may have been some of like the fallen angel knowledge, possibly on, learning some of this like mystic knowledge. But I know I'm beating this one like a dead horse, and I've said it a million different times on the show, but my interpretation of this is a matter of it's almost kind of like you do to it for a child. You know, you're not going to introduce them into the ways of the world directly right off the bat as they're a newborn child, but as they get older, they start understanding things, they acquire more knowledge, then you start giving them a little bit more at a time. And I think that that's what a lot of this knowledge is that a lot of people want to push off to the side and say it's knowledge that we're not supposed to have. I don't think there's any inherited knowledge that we're not supposed to have. I think it's just a matter of acquiring it when you
and
have
how
the
you
means that
use
you
it.
need to require it and
Hmm.
having the ability to use it properly. That's the other hard part about it.
Yeah,
Because if you don't have moral people and you give them the ability to do this thing or you give them the understanding of how to do this, then they're going to use it against you or they're going to use it against themselves. But
they're going
if
to
you
use.
raise people up to an
They
age
will
where they
destroy
understand
themselves.
exactly, where they understand how to use it properly, then they're more than willing to do it. And I think that that's the problem where we have this hard divide that everybody wants to have this conversation about is essentially the angels came down and they gave a newborn all of this knowledge of the world that they did not need to know yet. It wasn't
Right.
that any of it was necessarily bad or that we're not supposed to have it. It's just we weren't supposed to have it yet. We're supposed to learn it step by step. And
Enoch
now it's a
even
matter of God
said,
trying to catch society back up with them having this knowledge they weren't supposed to have. It's almost like trying to give therapy to a child that saw somebody get murdered. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna have to work with that child for years to get them back on that corrected path that they should have been on in the first place.
Enoch even says in his book, this knowledge is not for today, but for a generation to come. You know what I mean? And
That's what I
so,
think that we're in
absolutely.
currently. It seems like we're in this
No,
age of rediscovery as far as the Christian Bible goes. And I've been kind of, been praying and asking God, like, what exactly, like, my purpose is for some of this stuff. And I'm slowly starting to believe that part of my purpose is to kind of bring light to some of this stuff that people don't typically want to
it's the
talk
age of
about because
enlightenment, dude.
it brings a new understanding to this stuff. And once you actually
Yeah,
understand this stuff, think about how many people get pushed back into these Christian views once you get a
bro.
broader perspective of things. You and me both, man.
Yeah,
I was an atheist for years. I got pushed away completely from the church, but my research brought me back around full circle where it was a point where I just couldn't deny it anymore.
right, dude. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, and that goes into what you were just saying with this knowledge. It's the intention on how you use it. I mean, you could do a hell of a lot of good, not only for your family, but for your community by applying this stuff to and I think a lot of it is applying it to your spirit, right? So it's kind of like a skill that you develop over time. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, there's something so the angels being messengers, right? We're sitting here to kind of guide us, and there was, well, I'd say there was a lot of them, not just a faction, but a good portion of them that looked at the situation and said, and fell, spiritually they fell, and they said, well, we could take advantage of this, and we could, these people could worship us. This is a lot of this is a huge energy loosh, you know, whatever you would call it, like
Like mana
it,
almost.
like a energy recycling, not recycling,
But they're just taking advantage of it while they're
like
here,
like the
essentially.
loose jacking or whatever. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Yeah, yeah.
They're here, so they might as well take advantage of it. That's kind of how they saw it.
Well, when you pray to an entity, especially on a mass consciousness scale with a lot of people, it, this they acquire something, whether it be power or some kind of spiritual ability, longer life. I don't know. It has to do with some kind of spiritual power, I think, to have influence over more of humanity, right? You get a little bit of praise from one portion and it gives you more power to then influence the rest of them. You have this kind of manipulation tactic going on. And right now you have a death cult that is kind of in control of the world, and they're pushing everybody into this thought of, this end times, fear everything kind of thing. And like you said, dude, it's like it's the Great Awakening. I think an age of enlightenment. It's really whatever we make it. It really is whatever we make it. And unfortunately, I mean, perception is reality. Well, I mean, unfortunately, I say that meaning that a lot of people's perception is, what I said, death, disease, poverty, terrible, degenerate culture and art, just, nothing like what it should be. We've regressed as far as that goes. I think you can agree with me there.
Oh yeah, dude. Look at modern art. Look at language. I've been talking about this a
No one
lot
writes in
lately.
cursive anymore.
Yeah, just in general, like look at story writing as a whole. Look at like the most popular books now versus popular books 100 years ago, 200 years ago, even 300 years ago, dude. I have this regular conversation with people that modern day people now cannot understand books that are previous to like 1850. As soon as you hit before that, people start having issues with the language. So tell me how these books that were popular at the time that everybody could read, now people just have no concept of being able to understand. And we want to say that we're
Was our
becoming more
language
intelligent
stolen
as a
from us?
culture.
Was our language stolen from us?
Oh, 100%, dude. It's been degraded as a language continuously. And every new round and new generation that comes in and they start adding more slang words, start adding new expressions to things, it's just continuously degrading and degrading and degrading the language as time goes on.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah.
Now the new
And
generation has words that don't even have a meaning. Like for the first
well,
time in history, how can you have words that just don't have a meaning? You just
this is the
say them
thing
for
with
the
some of
sake of
these
saying
words
them.
and some of these memes, Shane, is the 6-7 shit. I don't know.
That was
what
one of
it
the
is.
ones I was referring to.
There's something about it that's like this meme magic, this memetic magic type of shit that's, I think, brainwashing kids. Somehow MK, like you can call it MK Ultra, you can call it whatever, dude. But I think all these memes and all this stuff on the internet, the skibbity toilet stuff is MK Ultra. Just
Oh yeah,
MK
dude.
Ultra Junior. You know what I mean?
You turn the brain into mush from all this type of stuff, and then you put something that's a spark of intelligence within that shit, and you can start making people's brains pick up on that because people's brains want to pick up on things that make sense. So if you just have continuous nonsense with something that makes sense for a split second within it, your brain's picking up on that thing that makes sense, and
Well,
that's what
that's
your
how we'll
brain's
have to
retaining
reintegrate some
subconsciously
of these
without you even
kids
realizing.
back into society, because there's some of them that are probably cooked, dude. I mean, it's rotted their brains completely. You try to present anything interesting to them as far as a hobby or, a book, and they will just, I mean, it just doesn't exist to them.
This generation watches people play video games. Like, I'm sure you came from the generation like me, dude, that when there was you had a single player game and somebody was playing, like you didn't want to watch them play. You were just
Dude, I
waiting for
wanted to
your turn
beat
to
the
play.
game. I
Yeah,
wanted to
now
beat the game by myself, no cheat codes, fuck multiplayer. I want to play by myself. I want to beat the game.
now
Completion.
now
That's,
kids will
dude,
just sit and watch somebody play a game
and go
voluntarily
get all
with
the
no interest
Easter
in
eggs
playing
and
the game.
stuff. I'm like, no, I'm going to go find those Easter eggs. Dude, I've spent hours like completing like Red Dead. I did all the Easter eggs in it, got all the guns, all everything, dude. Like
I
I
did that with
had to
Fallout 3.
see Red Dead 2 was like the last, well, that and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Love that game. Best Assassin's Creed ever. I'm a big fan of those free world games where you can like have your own fucking like uh, Viking crew or whatever whatever you have. I don't have time to play video games much anymore. It's unfortunate, but
Yeah, you give up video games for having a podcast. Almost everybody
Ghost
I've
of
talked to for the
Tsushima was
most part.
good. Ghost of Tsushima was good. Good samurai game. But what were we talking about before I got off on a tangent about video games?
I was just thinking the same thing. We're talking about 6-7 with the kids, and you're talking about demonic memes and everything like that. I think you're kind of getting around to the point of it because we're talking about how just modern day kids nowadays just brain rot. Like they don't even play the games. They don't do anything for themselves.
Yeah, they're not creating anything. And that goes to say, I mean, school, dude, these schools are not as hard on these kids. It's like used to, man, kids would get held back. Like you'd be scared to be held back. You know what I mean? Now they'll pass you regardless.
It's because they don't
They
want to
don't
deal with
care.
you. They're just pushing you
Yeah.
through the system now.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's blatant indoctrination. And my son, man, luckily for me, my son is pretty based, and he recognizes a lot of things, and pretty smart kid. So I think I've done good so far with him. I have a daughter though. That's going to be the tricky part. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I got the opposite going on. My daughter's the older one. She's good. She seems like she's aware of the world,
There
but
you go.
my 3-year-old, that's gonna be the one that's the trouble. Which seems like it's the same thing with you, but maybe it's the generation, man. But
Maybe I think you're right on that. Yeah.
but as far as like the 6-7 thing, man, I've been seeing people say like basically that it has like a demonic tie to it. Do you have an understanding of what that is exactly? Like what's the symbolism behind it? Because I'm assuming it has something to do with like the judgment hands, because they do like the level hands with it. So I'm assuming that there's something symbolic with that, or maybe even the Baphomet thing where you're doing like partially the Baphomet hands.
Are they doing the Baphomet hands?
I mean, in a smaller variation, kind of. You got one up, one down kind of a thing, or you're doing like the leveling scales.
Yeah, because 6, 7 is 13, right? So, well, I guess that'd be 4. Well, I don't know. So, no, that is it's something that I saw on TikTok. I think of someone saying that it may be a demonic, something that has to do with the demonic stuff. That, I mean, you see a lot of that nowadays with the trends. Like I said, and I've tried to tell my son to stay away from those things, but I don't know. He's been on this 6, 7 shit. I don't like it. I don't like it. And I tried telling him, I was like, hey man, there's something weird about that. And he was like, no, there's nothing demonic about it. I'm just like, hey, you don't know, dude. You don't know.
I
But no,
mean, what not a
that's
better
actually
way to try to get the message across, man? You talk about how the devil works in deception, man. The best way to be able to influence a society is to deceive the youth. So if you find the ability to be able to do that, I mean that's your means right away in. And I mean, you listen to all this music that these kids listen to nowadays, man, and like the stuff that they don't subconsciously realize that they're saying or that they're listening to, or even some of the popular shows, man. Like Demon Hunter or whatever the new one is that all the kids are watching. One of the songs in it is specifically talking about like idol worship, and it's specifically like references to the Bible. So it's weird to me that you have all of these biblical references that are being hidden within things that kids aren't even realizing that they're picking up, but they're flipping it to, again, the inversion to the darker side, because the best way to be able to manipulate a generation again is by manipulating the youth.
right. No, I think it's also part of a giant or a much bigger ritual. And that goes into chaos magic with Crowley, and how 9/11 was a crowd, definitely a Crowleyan ritual. And everything that followed up after that, that was kind of the beginning of this new age of chaos. 2001, I think. That kind of opened this portal for these forces to come in and these other things to kind of play out. As Crowley always says, and now when you see the number 77, when you see the Goat of Mendez, and you see the Dark Mother, you will know that I have returned, and that it's basically like the end times, and I have a buddy, John Lee Chaubeck, who actually writes. He has these books he's been doing where he finds all these 77 references throughout pop culture, and it's uncanny, dude. Like it's kind of freaky. So then you kind of realize, like, oh wow, this symbolism is actually out there. And they use it in these rituals. In some of these rituals you have to have a certain amount of people doing something at the same time, at a certain time, right? Maybe in a certain place, over a certain spot, in a certain pattern, chanting a certain mantra, um, maybe it's a blood ritual and you have to get the blood of a certain animal, or like it's really dark shit. But I think they incorporate it into pop culture, and our children participate in it unknowingly, and then it plays out, in other realms. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, 100%, dude. I mean, you look at all of these modern concerts too, and the fact that like one of the prime ones that I've been talking about for a while is the fact that when Taylor Swift was doing that big fucking concert series where the tickets were
You talking about the
ridiculously
wave of
overpriced.
energy?
Yeah, and the fact that people were mentioning the fact that they went to the concert, saw the whole concert, and then they don't remember any of the concert. And you started seeing these like things where they had like the dark cloaks that would come out and start dancing around them. And then you start actually watching like almost every single like main popular act, and you start noticing that they have these repetitive things that'll happen, like people that'll come out in black hoods. You'll
Yeah.
notice like they'll have these like rotating circle symbolism, which goes into like the sigils and goes into the Lesser Key of Solomon and everything,
Dude,
but it's
these
all
old
subconscious stuff. So people don't realize what they're practicing, what they're doing. It's even like songs, for example. How many people regularly will sing songs, sing the lyrics to songs, not actually even realizing what the song's about? Like
Oh
any
yeah,
normal
dude.
person, how
And
many songs do you love that you listen to all the time that you really just don't even understand what the song is even about in the first place? And you're sitting here, you're chanting the words, you're singing the words, you're doing all this type of stuff. So imagine the power behind that if you create this popular song that you already know the ability to be able to psychologically get stuck in somebody's head, because that's exactly what mainstream music is nowadays. It's all essentially algorithms that they know are going to trick the brain into remembering them and wanting to repetitively listen to them. And then you put these subconscious things within them, or you even do the thing where you hide dark things under a poppy beat, and then people are going around singing these songs that they think are happy songs, not realizing that they're actually singing something significantly darker than what they're singing, and they're essentially forming these chants without even realizing it. Like it's all subconscious manipulation. And
yeah,
I've been
and
saying it since the beginning, man. Some of these
dude,
mystery
when
school
when you
things are
see,
all
well, yeah, I
psychology
was gonna say,
mixed with or philosophy mixed with psychology.
yeah, and when you see these award shows and all these other things happening, yeah, it is. You see like this kind of macabre Babylonian-esque ritual going on, and that's exactly what it is. I mean, it was the same thing. What was that thing? Astro World with Travis Scott. I mean, that was no doubt a giant, ritual. Obviously, do you not remember that?
Oh yeah, I 100% remember that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
it was
With
what was it, like a
with
year,
the
about a year or so ago? Like obviously he's like linked in with all that stuff
I
in the
think it was a few
community.
years ago, but he,
No, I was talking about
he
the
got
picture that came out
arrested.
where he's like on the floor, like passed out, and there's this other artist that's not a Brima Abramovic, but the other one. And she's like sitting on like a couch behind him while he just looks like almost like a soulless like carcass sitting there on the floor. Like this dude is
Dude,
so linked in, and there's so much of this stuff that's just kind of laid down and hidden, and people just do not even notice it, man.
he got arrested in Egypt because he was practicing dark rituals. The government literally stated he was practicing like these. Dude, may have been like some kind of shit from the Goetia, some Solomonic magic. I don't know. I think a lot of them are into that Kabbalah magic. You see the red bracelet a lot in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, dude, no, it's something that we see on the TV. It happens at the Super Bowl. It happens at the Grammys. Their dress is like, you got Madonna dressed as Ishtar. You got they're trying. They think they're gods. Stars, right? Um, stars, and that when people see that in the subconscious, yeah, it does something. That symbolism, I definitely think it does something. What's this? What's this? What's this?
This is that picture I was telling you about right here. It's what's this chick's name? The other weird artist. But yeah, you see,
Oh, dude, Rick Owens' wife. You know Rick Owens, right? The
yep,
fashion designer. Yeah, that's
yep.
his wife. What's her name? I'm pretty sure she's like a Hecatian priest or something, dude.
All I looked up was Travis Scott witch, and this was the first thing that popped up. So that says
She's
anything.
she's people think the witch of Hollywood is I can't say her name, Abramovic, but I think it really is this bitch right here. Michelle LeMay.
That's it. Yep.
Michelle LeMay. Yeah, man, she is a weirdo, dude. Rick Owens is even weirder. Her husband is even weirder. Yeah,
What's
there's
your
some.
interpretation of this picture with having some like occult knowledge. Like, what do you think is
Is she
exactly happening in
imitating
this
some
picture?
dying god? I don't
That's what it
know.
almost kind of seems like. Like, there's all
Yeah,
these
yeah,
orbs in the
and like
recording
she
studio.
is the priestess doing the invocation, maybe. That is the altar, right? Yeah, because you got what the hell? You got some kind of stag horn. Um, I don't know. Maybe she had him in a trance. Maybe she's his handler. I don't know, dude. But I mean,
I don't
uh,
know about you, man, but this picture makes me extremely uncomfortable.
yes, dude. No, no, no. Yeah, yeah. Look at all the. Are those a bunch of orbs in the picture?
Yeah, dude, that's what else I was gonna say.
So
And this is
there's
inside
the
of a
room is
recording
filled with
studio.
spirits. Yeah, dude, that's definitely some type of ritual happening in plain sight.
Look at the
She's
shoes
she's
too. That just
she's
makes it even weirder. They got
what is
the
she doing with her legs open? Uh-huh.
weird one, right?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, he's a weird fuck too, though, you know?
I think that's putting it lightly.
Yeah, yeah, he's a weirdo, dude. All those rappers are. They're all gay, you know.
Yeah, that's when it starts getting into like the weird aspect of them, man. When you start getting into like the old '90s stuff, when all these like rappers were coming out talking about how the private prison systems were coming in, and they were starting to say, hey, if you guys start promoting gangster rap, then we'll start paying you guys. And Dr. Dre came out and talked about it. Ice Cube came out and talked about it, and a lot of these gangster
Absolutely.
guys just didn't want to play that shit. So after enough time, it seemed like they started kind of filling in the gap with all of these actors, and once the gap started getting filled in with all the actors, such as Tupac, for example, you look into that
Tupac.
guy, the
Yeah,
way he used
yeah.
to write, all that stuff. The guy was 100% an actor.
He
And
was
then,
gay, dude.
yeah, and also gay too. And then you get into the modern day rap scene, which, as we've watched this slowly transition, it started off in like the 2000s where the rappers would start wearing dresses ironically. And now, where are we now? Where are we degraded as a culture because of this stuff?
So
It's
sad.
all intentional, subconscious programming because they're essentially taking these. I mean, even beyond the private prisons, man, you want to take a philosophy and put it behind this. You take this group that are looked at as almost like these tough hard asses. And then what do you kind of do for them over time? You slowly start to droop them down and feminize them. So initially you start off in the 90s where everybody's looking up to these gangster rappers like they're like some tough, badass motherfuckers. And now all those tough, badass motherfuckers are now all these feminized mumble rapper type people. So now it's like you've transitioned people as a society now where originally you thought that that manly hard fuck awesome guy was really really cool, and now they're looking up to these guys wearing dresses and crazy colors in their hair, weird teeth, making weird noises,
Yep.
mumble rapping, degraded culture, all of this type of shit. And you've completely misconstrued and flipped that where even some of the gangster guys from the 90s are listening to this new stuff now like, oh yeah, this is it. Like, no man, this has been an intentional degrading of one, your
This ain't it.
masculinity, two, you as a culture, three, also your intelligence, but nobody clearly is able to see that for some reason.
Yeah, this ain't it, dude. Yeah, it's sad about music now, man. I don't really listen to any new music now. I can't. I don't even look for it. I just listen to stuff I listen to. Hardcore from like the late 2010s and stoner rock. 90s music is always great, you know, some 70s, but yeah, I can't get into new music.
Yeah, I'm the same with you there, man. But I guess kind of starting to wrap up towards the end, man. I always like to end the show with some words of wisdom. So, if there's any words of wisdom that you might want to bestow on the listeners today, man, what might it be?
Well, absolutely, man. Guys, yeah, there's a lot of fear being pushed right now. That they've been kind of priming us with fear for a long time, but now they're starting to really push it. Fear is so. What y'all need to know is that the mental plane, and this is in a lot of esoteric schools, and the mental plane is considered the highest plane of our existence. Being your thoughts do have a lot of power. And so fear being the strongest emotion has a lot of power, um, you know, if it's accessed. So don't fear. Don't let people put you into a spirit of fear. If you understand things, you will not fear them as much. So try to understand things before, you try to condemn it or, before you start to fear it, because then you'll only close yourself off to certain truths. And I've also tried to explain this, that just because you get into researching the occult and certain types of occult sciences, alchemy, stuff like that, doesn't mean you're performing it, right? You're not practicing any kind of divination. So don't try to question everything, guys. Absolutely stay true to that. Have discernment and trust your gut. Trust your gut.
Oh yeah, I say that one regularly on the show, man. And also something kind of side tangent what you were saying, that the only way that you'll ever not fear the dark is to actually understand the dark. So
Yes.
Not everybody wants to be able to dabble in the dark, but
doesn't mean you have to become one with the dark.
You just have to understand it so that
with
it can't
authority
fight you.
over the dark and say, I do not fear you, but I will try to understand you. But then once you understand it, and then you can explain it to other people, and
then it can't be used against
a lot
you.
Of things. What's up?
Then it can't be used against you.
It
like dark
cannot
psychology,
be used
for
against
example.
You. And when it is being used against you or anyone else, you'll be able to recognize it.
Exactly. Like dark psychology,
that's a big part of it. That's what they don't want you to know. That's why they tell you not to look into it. Don't research it. There's no harm in researching this stuff, guys. Just be, it's a slippery slope. Like you were saying, Shane, you put this knowledge into the hands of the wrong people, they could do some diabolical shit with it. So,
venture further with the purest of heart.
There you go. There you go.
And if anybody wanted to come and find your plethora of shows, for lack of better terms, man, where can everybody come and find all of your shows and find you on the internet, man?
Well, you can find Greypilled, Sound Science, Esoteric Book Review, The Occult Rejects, and all the other ones on Twitter at Greypilled Pod, Instagram Greypilled_podcast. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just a Greypilled Podcast. If you want to support the show, or if you want a whole catalog of content that's not released to the public, you can go to patreon.com/greypilledpodcast. Tons of tiers on there. A lot of different perks. You get the Elohim etymologies early released. You get esoteric book reviews. You get exclusive watch parties, links to the Discord, links to group chats, free sticker pack. You become part of a community in the conspiracy realm that is very diverse from the other ones. We talk about a lot of stuff that a lot of other communities aren't talking about over on Greypilled. And like I said, we have our own little group of podcasters in, like, you could say they're all a part of Greypilled as well. My wife has the Babylon podcast, Subliminal Messenger show, Disagree to Agree, which is him and Rat. They do these the esoteric book review with me. So and also the Occult Rejects, they do a lot of stuff on my Patreon as well. Yeah, and it's a good way to support the show. If you're a Rumble person, locals, I try to post all the links to the shows over there. Maybe Shane can come hang out on Patreon with us. Yeah. And I was going to say, if you want to book with me or want me to come on your show, calendly.com/greypilledpodcast or greypilledpodcast@gmail.com. But yeah, no, Shane, I appreciate you having me on, brother.
Absolutely, man. And I will make sure I include all of those links down in the show description so everybody can find it quick and easy. And man, I appreciate you making the time to come on. It was a fun conversation. We'll definitely have to do it again, man.
Absolutely. Got to get you on Greypilled.
Absolutely, man. I'd definitely be down. Perfect.